What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. In today's special release, I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing fellow YouTuber and entrepreneur Jesse Eckel. Jesse has a YouTube channel of over 160,000 subscribers, many other social channels with even larger followings, and has multiple business models he's currently running. Over the last 2 years, Jesse has made over $1 million and has documented the entire thing on his YouTube and TikTok channels. Today, I asked Jesse where he got started, what business models he's tried, where he made his money, where he sees opportunity now, and much more. If you're interested in this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel because I am giving away over $2,700 to my subscribers. Each milestone I hit, 5 lucky subscribers will win the cash, so go check the link below for all of those instructions. But without further ado, let's dive into the interview and learn more about Jesse. Awesome. Well, we could just jump right into it. I appreciate you coming on the channel, Jesse, today, taking time out of your busy schedule to chat about your businesses and your YouTube channel. If you had a second, just to mind introducing yourself, maybe where you're from and what you do on YouTube.
Yeah, my name's Jesse. I'm a YouTube content creator. I'm originally from Northern California. Now I live over in on the East Coast. And
Very
so
cool.
my wife's entire family, we all were from the same little small town in the mountains of California. And then they all moved to the East Coast, and we just kind of followed, and we've been out here for about 1.5 years. And yeah.
So please tell me how you ended up getting your start on YouTube. And I know I've been following some of your TikToks as well. You had a Road to 1 Million challenge that everyone was on board watching, but maybe some of the earlier business models you had on YouTube and what you were filming.
Yeah. So so a long time ago, I started a YouTube channel, and I did a lot of people don't remember Freddie W, but I did Freddie W corridor digital type videos where I tried to do like mini movies. Okay. And It was a lot of fun. We had a blast doing it. I did that for 1 year, and then I stopped doing it for 9 years. Okay. And so that channel kind of died.
Was this around the Vine area? Because I remember at one point, yeah, everyone loved doing those little skit things. You might have even been doing it previous.
This was before Vine. This was 2011.
Nice.
And so I was, they were just more they were less skits, and they're more me trying to learn how to do filmmaking, because I've just always loved making videos. And eventually I moved on from that. I started a wedding filming business later down the line. I tried social media in my off season, because wedding has reverse summers where in the winter you have an off season. And so I would do Instagram experiments where I did this for 6 months. I posted 3 to 5 Instagram posts a day, trying to grow on Instagram. I got I think 80 followers.
Yeah.
Dude, I did everything. It was so much work.
The grind.
And nothing. Yeah. I did a podcast for a year at one point where I did episodes literally every single day, and that never really took off. I tried YouTube before again, a little later, and I did 60 videos where every single video, literally out of all 60 got 0 to 2 views. It was really bad.
Tough.
And so,
yeah.
And I put a lot of effort into those videos. They weren't just low quality. They were crazy amounts of effort. And so, eventually I kind of gave up on social media, not gave up, but whatever. And then, my business fell apart for filming weddings. I had no income. I have 5 kids. My wife's a stay-at-home mom. Had to figure something out. Didn't really know what to do. So I figured the best place to start was to start learning about being successful and being an entrepreneur, and kind of the foundation. And so,
I think, sorry to interject, but if I'm not mistaken, this was around the time of basically when COVID started as well.
My business collapsed because of COVID. So wedding industry businesses collapsed because of COVID.
Right.
Some people figured out elopement stuff, but even they really struggled. Right. And I had a savings built up. I had 6 months prepared. I had all that, but I wasn't prepared for a, multi-year pandemic that would destroy the wedding industry. So, I got super depressed. I started learning. That's the first place I did is I went learning, because I just didn't know what to do. So I figured that was how I could discover what to do. And then, so I was reading all these books, and I had a friend who kind of took off on TikTok. He got 5,000 followers, which blew my mind, because I had done Instagram and I got 80 followers, right? That was 6 months, 80 followers. So he got 5,000, and I was like, you're doing something right. So I was like, I need to try TikTok because he was encouraging me to do that. So I started posting just literally what I was learning. Like if I was learning about psychology, I'd talk about that. If I was learning about marketing, I'd talk about that.
And what was your friend? Sorry, what was your friend's niche? If you mind me asking.
What was his niche? He was doing like Facebook ads and stuff like that.
So another business style.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah.
And so I was posting that ended up taking off. I got like 1,000 followers. I was like, this is insane. And then quickly that turned into 5,000, then 10,000. When I hit 10,000, I was like, dude, I have never had this many followers in my life. This is insane. And so, I started like struggling with kind of content though. Cause I was putting out, 8 videos a week, trying to figure out like, how do I kind of niche down into like what I'm really passionate about?
Yeah.
And also at the same time, struggling with like the fact that even though I was building a TikTok audience, I wasn't making any money.
How to monetize it?
Well, not even how to monetize it, but how to actually like fix my problem of like, I need to make income because I need to feed my family, pay my rent. And so that's when I came up with the 1 to 1 million challenge, which is like really, it was one part like this would be cool content, but another part like this is going to motivate me to go do something. And that was really my goal, is like, what can I set up that will like hold me accountable to not be lazy? And so I launched it, kind of put it out there in front of my entire audience and knew I couldn't suck. I had no idea what I was going to do still. And I just literally started doing anything I could to kind of pull in money. My first week, I did a photo shoot. I ended up cold calling a bunch of people. I didn't get anything from that. And then and people make fun of me all the time for this. Like, that's stupid. But the majority of the money I made that first week was literally, I had a telemarketer call me to try to sell me something. And I just flipped it and asked them for money. I literally just asked them for money and they said yes.
Incredible.
And yeah, I just didn't want to not hit my goal because I felt like I'd be so discouraged if I failed. And so I just,
sorry. Yeah, that's it. I mean, the part why we read so many books is because following a hero story. So I mean, you started it to motivate yourself, but as well for an audience to follow a hero's journey, no matter how long it takes, I guess, is super engaging. So in essence, yeah, you created that little storyline for yourself, which was very big brain for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really was synergistic. Like everything I try to do is sort of in some way has to be synergistic because it just ends up making more sense, right? Like I have a problem I need to solve and it kills 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I kept doing that. Most of it was side hustles in the beginning. I did like a lot of marketing stuff because my original idea for like starting a business was I did video work. And so I thought I could do like video and mix it with marketing and I could get like crazy clients doing that. And that didn't really end up working out, but because of it, I'd read a lot of marketing books. And so
right.
I tried a lot of like marketing niche side hustles, and Google ads ended up being one that really worked well for me. And it pretty much got me the majority of my bills paid,
Very cool.
And yeah, so I literally tried anything that anyone recommended. I'd ask people like in the comments, like,
what were you selling through your Google ads, or you were doing it for clients?
For clients. So I'd go to like really small businesses that like they were usually a little bit older and they didn't know how to run Google ads. And I would essentially help them get more clients. And it's a win-win. So I wanted to get, if they're paying me X amount of dollars, my goal was to make them 3 to 10 times what they're paying me.
Right.
And some businesses I failed at that. And, they weren't clients anymore, but every once in a while I'd find a niche where it really worked. And then they would make tons of money. So I'd have some clients. One client, he paid $200. And within the first $200, he booked a $20,000 job. And so, yeah. And he went on to book like 100,000, 200,000, because they could scale out really big. So when they would get like, when they'd get a big client, it was like a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm sure you probably had multiple aha moments sort of throughout this journey. Did you have one going through this? I know you probably had a few on YouTube as well recently, but early on where you're like, aha, this is something I can do now to bring in wages.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That Google ads, I was really stoked about. And I went, the hard part was like filtering to find the right client that was willing to do it. And that's where I struggled with that. And I ended up not being like super passionate about it. and put money on the table, but I just knew I could really crush something if I really loved it. And so I kept, and I knew or at least I felt like it wasn't going to get me to my $1 million goal. So I knew I had to keep experimenting. So I kept trying other stuff. Like I tried like Pinterest ads. I tried content creation for brands. I tried like everything I could think of. Besides, I didn't do anything like in real estate. I had a guy that was like a big real estate guy reached out to, and I asked him if he thought, it was something doable. And he just told me no. So I just never went down that route. So yeah, I tried a lot of side hustles. Eventually I built up enough capital that it was just sitting there, right? Like I had a lot of excess capital, and I was like, I need to be putting my money to work, right?
Exactly.
And this came after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Richest Man in Babylon. And I was like, wow, like it was a mental shift for me. And so I was very, very familiar with crypto. I had been involved in crypto in 2017.
Nice.
I had been through the crash, and I had spent a lot of time. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd spent a lot of time studying it. So I understood crypto seasons. I understood investing like fundamentals. I understood all the mistakes I'd made that time that I didn't want to make this time. And I understood like generally kind of how the industry worked. And so I was like, well, I'm going to invest there. I did try some in like puts and calls. What is that? It's not Forex, but options. I tried options too. And I sucked at that. But like, well, I made a little bit of money, but it wasn't like great. But crypto, I made some real money with crypto because I got into Luna early.
Hopefully
Well, I turned 760 into 150,000.
Holy.
But along the way, I took out my initial and I took profit. So I made about $15,000 worth of profit along the way.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing I always do is like, that's one thing I learned from last time was right. Last time I put money in, I didn't take money out and I lost a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so this time I would always, when it doubles, I took my initial off the table and, I took profits along the way where it made sense. And that saved me a lot, or that not only saved me, but that made me a lot of money this time.
It's a psychology shift. Yeah. Crypto is such a voting machine right now that it's all just people basically voting. And when things are so good, euphoria is in the market, right? And you exactly know you have to take your money for sure. So
yeah. And I did make some mistakes though, some pretty big mistakes. So it was kind of the end. So, crypto's seasonal, right? You have the Bitcoin, when Bitcoin goes up, you have the alt season, and then you have Degen season. So we were in alt season. I made a ton of money in that. And then as we shifted from alt to Degen season, we remember that big crash in May.
Yeah. Right after. Yeah.
Right before that, I took out a ton of like margin for the first time. I'd never done it before. And I was like, I'm going to try this. Got to get my $1 million goal.
Yeah.
Literally the day before like this massive crash. And so I got liquidated. I lost a lot of money. That was a hard lesson to learn. But from there, I was just like determined, like, I'm going to make this money back. And so I just kept up with it, right? Like, obviously we transitioned from there to Degen season, where it was like all the like high risk, super experimental projects started taking off. And so I started doing like experiments and it kind of became a content base for me, where I started, I would pick a really high risky project that was like a really low market cap, and I would invest money and then share the results. Yeah. And so like, did I make money? Did I lose money? Does this work? Does it not? What am I learning along the way? It's the same thing I was doing the whole time, right? Just like kind of sharing my journey and what I'm learning. And this was my first time doing a Degen season. The last crypto cycle, I never did it because I was just a lot more cautious.
Yeah.
And so this time it was my first kind of like time like dabbling in there. And it was a lot of fun. It was crazy.
At one point, it was basically anything you put your money into was going up, right? So
was making money.
Yeah.
And the way I was able to make money, because like a lot of people look at that, because almost all those projects are like down right now. And the way you make money during those seasons is you got to follow those risk management strategies, right? You got to, when your initial doubles, you take it off the table, and then you take profits along the way. And so like I did strong block, but I made a lot of money from that. I mean, a lot of these projects, I lost money on. It had doubled, but even I make stupid mistakes where it doubled and I didn't follow my own strategy because like it's going up so fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it dropped to like nothing,
Hindsight.
right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they call, I mean, I get so many comments about all these Ponzonomic types of, degen season coins that were going off. And yeah, it seemed like there was a couple months there where there's people just making tens of thousands of dollars, but of course it doesn't seem sustainable. So it was almost like, where is this going to go? Of course, if there's another bear season, then there are going to be the other people getting wrecked. And I feel like there's not that distinction where it's like in the stock market, when someone loses money, it's someone making money, vice versa, right? It's the same in crypto. So it's not like, I guess some tokens, money's just made out of nowhere. But in essence, basically, like if you're buying, it's from someone selling or vice versa. So someone's making or losing money when you are.
Yes. And the agent season, a lot of people kind of scoff at, but I actually think it's a necessary part of the crypto cycle. It's when all the crazy experiments happen, right? Like the things that like responsible people would be too like maybe cautious to try, that those things happen during that season. And a lot of it's trash, but occasionally you have a DeFi innovation that you're like, wow, this is actually really cool. And that's what experiments are for, right? Like most experiments fail, but occasionally you have this wild experiment that like succeeds, right? And so it's kind of just that sort of season. And it comes from like, it essentially comes from the fear of missing out. So like people get into Bitcoin goes way up. People are like, shoot, I missed out on that, but I'm going to invest in Ethereum and, you know, these really altcoins because they'll probably go up. And then those go up. And then they're like, shoot, I missed out on alt season. But what are these other projects left over? Let's like, maybe those will go up. And that's when Degen season takes off. So it's a fun, crazy season, but it is like, it is really difficult if you don't have any sort of risk management. You can get wrecked. But if you have risk management, it's at least it can be pretty easy because almost every investment, like you mentioned, doubles at least at some point. And then you take that initial off and then you're just safe, right?
The risk to reward seems, pretty wild with those very small tokens that 100x, which is mind blowing because it's almost impossible to catch those stocks in the stock market without being an accredited investor and having to put down $1 million plus, right? Or something like that. So pretty wild that some people can build portfolios from like $50 and 100x their money if they do search out and find that proper project. But sort of leads into my next question. Obviously there's tons of money on the table, but how do you define success for yourself and where you go with maybe your channel, your brand? Or
so for me, success for me, like everything's about just spending more time with my family. So it's like I want to spend more time with my kids and I want to go travel around. But obviously with 5 kids, it's really dang expensive. Even when you go eat out and stuff, it's like, it's really expensive.
Can imagine.
Yeah, it's bad. And so for me, originally it was just, I need to pay my bills. I need to bring in income. And then it was like, I want to hit my goal because I want to prove to myself that I can. And then now I'm at a cool spot where like, I get to kind of, you know, build my channel up and do fun things. And I'm not necessarily like struggling to bring in income anymore, which is cool. But for me, success at the end of the day is like, how much time can I free up so I can spend it doing the things I love? And
Exactly.
so it's not really maybe like, I've never wanted to own a Lamborghini. I've never wanted to own like a Rolex or like, not that there's anything wrong with owning those things. I don't, if that's your passion, that's your dream, then like go for it. Right. That's just never been mine. Right. And so, for me, it's just, I love like going camping, adventuring, traveling, you know, going to the river and swimming, that kind of stuff is a lot of fun for me. And doing that with my kids, you know, going scootering down the street and stuff. And
Very
so
cool.
I would just love to have the freedom to do that. And you know, I'm in a cool spot where I do have a lot more freedom to do that. And
That's awesome to hear. No, that's a great success story, especially with, and I think you have a younger family as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So can't imagine when they do get to teenage years, how much the food's going to cost then. But for now, taking in those camping trips is awesome. Up in Canada here, I do a ton of fishing and camping, and yeah, nothing like getting outside the Wi-Fi zone and just getting back to your roots and being out in nature, right? So
Yeah, it's super cheap and it's like way cooler than most things you pay for. And that's the thing. Like, like the things that I guess I would want to spend money on would be like, I think it'd be cool to have like more land around my house that like the kids could play on, or, you know, whatever.
Experiences.
Yeah. And it would be really cool to have maybe a little bit bigger studio to record like YouTube videos on.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool. But yeah, there's not really a lot like currently besides like traveling and stuff that I could think of spending money on. So for me at this point, it's more about like being a creator, honing like a skill set is a lot of fun, you know, and you should always be like pushing and trying to grow. And I love trying to grow myself. And so I want to get better and better. I want to become more educated in the space. And at the end of the day, like my goal with my YouTube channel. So I had my TikTok, but my YouTube came later. And it literally just came out of like, I got a ton of Instagram messages, people saying, I want to do a 1-to-1 million. How can I do it? Now you used to sit down and like reply, you know, spend 30 minutes replying to everyone, and it became too much. And so I decided, well, I'll just make kind of long videos to kind of respond to some of these main questions.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of fell in love with the process of like creating YouTube videos. And that's kind of where my YouTube channel started. Was like, originally, I just wanted to kind of help these people who kept asking me, because I had a lot of friends too, right? They were like, I'm struggling, I want help. And so I just wanted to create sort of this library of like, document my journey so I could kind of inspire people, but also document what I'm learning. And so the good things and the failures. And so that's one thing I've tried to do on my channel is like, I'll make videos of like when I succeed, but I'll also make videos of when I like, you know, I fail at investing. And that was the kind of idea too, with like the experiments is like, let's see if this works, or if this fails, what did I learn along the way?
A hero's journey has to have adversity for sure. So that's great to hear that. Yeah. So then were you able to convert some of those TikTok following that you were building over to your YouTube channel, or vice versa? Or were you able to just grow ridiculously on some of your videos that obviously were trending on YouTube that I caught?
So I thought that like it'd be pretty easy to seed over an audience from TikTok. And I made TikToks. I do one a week trying to get them over to YouTube. And after doing this for like months, I think I went from like 800 to like, I went from like 800 to probably like 1500 subs. And then from there, I grew from like over the next maybe like few months, 1500 to about 3000. So it did help. It was like a good, you know, start. Yeah. But considering I had like 200,000 followers on TikTok, you would have thought it would have been like, boom, easy 20,000, right? But it wasn't, because there's just reality that some people, they live on TikTok and some people, they live on YouTube and they don't really cross over. It's just not their thing.
I know. So, it's very interesting, the little intricacies of the different social platforms where you're trying to obviously growth hack and continue to grow your brand that way. And then noticing that, like, again, there's no better way to grow than producing a YouTube video that YouTube puts on a trending page or starts recommending it. And there's no better TikTok than making a TikTok that they show to. So it's like they're completely different and completely separate. And you kind of, I was just curious as to if you were able to convert some of those, because it's obviously, if one of your social platforms was to go down for any reason, it's good to have obviously your following on other platforms as well. So sort of as a backup, but converting them to each platform is an interesting topic for me.
It is. Yeah. And it's, it definitely helped though. Like I would say it would have been way more difficult, but what ended up taking my channel off was I had a couple of videos that kind of hit the algorithm, and once those hit the algorithm, then they just kind of kept hitting the algorithm for a while. And so, yeah, exactly.
So do you have any, I know this isn't necessarily crypto related, but for people who are watching YouTube as well, any sort of tips to give on that click-through rate and watch time? Obviously that everyone talks about how to try to hit that algorithm.
Yeah. Okay. So see, I don't even think that. I think the mistake most people make is they think they're going to make 5 videos and just become a YouTuber, and or 10 or 20, right? But when I went into it, I was like, I'm not making any money from this, but like I was like, I loved YouTube. So that's a big thing. Is like when I say like I fell in love with YouTube, it was like I was like, I really, really want to be a YouTube creator. I was watching like creator content, how their journey, and I was like, this is so cool. Like I love creating things. I love teaching people. And, you know, TikTok, 30 seconds, right? YouTube, I could do 30 minutes and teach people. And so for me, it was just like, it's my ultimate, right? Like it's my ultimate creative outflow output. I wanted to make it happen more than anything. And I was like, I will do this for the next 8 years straight, consistent uploads until I take off. And I know if I spend 8 years consistently doing this, I will get either so good at it that eventually people can't ignore me anymore.
Yeah.
Or eventually I'll just, with that amount of output, that amount of videos going out, I'll hit the algorithm. And so, it's having that really long-term mindset, because some YouTubers, it did take 8 years.
Yeah.
And what I see is like YouTubers will go for like a year and then will give up. Or even the YouTubers that take off, they get burned out too, because they're not doing it in a sustainable manner. And so, so I would say having a long-term viewpoint, realizing that when you start out, you're going to probably not be that good, but you'll improve over time if you're just consistent. Just you naturally get better the more you do something. And then realizing that like YouTube's algorithm is essentially looking for watch time. It wants to find videos that people will spend a long time watching. And it doesn't care what your video is, or like who you are. It doesn't care about you. It just cares about how long can you keep that person glued to that video. And so,
and well done, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, you're a great storyteller. Your videos are well put together.
Thank you. And I think part of that is like, I just do my style. Like I'm pretty authentic about it. Like I didn't like go in and be like, I'm going to be this style or that style. I just decided to make videos that I enjoyed making. And I think that comes across. But anyway, so once you get videos that people start watching, especially if they're really niched down into like this one specific like topic, that like say that if one person found video A of yours, that they would still be interested in video B, C, D, and E. Well, then YouTube creates like this string of between your videos, or you can get put into somebody else's string. Like say somebody's watching your video and then they recommended one of my videos, then they get recommended one of, so-and-so videos. Well, anyway, so as long as you can fit into these strings, but especially if it's your own videos, YouTube loves that, because now it can like, instead of them watching for like 10 minutes, they're watching for 50 minutes across all your videos. And so YouTube's going to recommend that all day long. And so part of it is like, you have to create a content library in a niche of good content before you can really take off on YouTube. And it takes time.
And do you at all, and this might be a small struggle of mine as well too with my channel, crypto changes so often. How does this content stay evergreen for you? Because it's like, it's just the next month, or like 1 month it's NFTs, the next month it's staking, the next month it's shit coins. Like it just, to create something and then to have it flow, you obviously do a good job because it's your experience, but how do you comment on keeping content evergreen even in such a changing environment?
So my niche actually isn't crypto. I think a lot of people think of me as crypto, but it started like the first half of my journey was just side hustles.
Right.
So my niche, like kind of how I think of it is like, I want to help other people build wealth. And how do I help people do that? And really the conclusion that I've come to is like, for example, with crypto, right? I got into all these projects. I made a ton of money. A lot of other people got into the same projects, had the chance to make a ton of money, and they lost a fortune.
Just different timing.
Well, I don't even think it's different timing. I think it's like different knowledge sets. So like they had the opportunity, like it would double, but they wouldn't take their initial off. So they didn't de-risk. They would make a ton of money. And instead of taking profit, they would say, well, I'm going to make double or triple that. Right. And so having that knowledge is literally what will separate you from being able to win to drastically losing. And so for me, a big part of like, if I really want to help people succeed at this is I need to, like, before teaching them any sort of like tactics or anything like that, they need to learn the underlying fundamentals, because I could show that I could introduce them to the best project in the world. And that could make them, for example, when my Titano video came out, it was like Titano was at a cent. And then it went on for like 4 more months after that, all the way up to 20 cents. So anyone that would have jumped in on that, which I never actually tried to get anyone to jump into projects. So that's another thing, is like, I'm sharing experiments in my journey.
Yeah.
But I don't actually want anyone to jump into it. And the reason is because I hate the idea of like that the accountability aspect that people would copy me and then lose money. I don't like that. I just want to teach them, like, originally my idea was like, hey, instead of you having to lose money trying these experiments, I'll go lose money trying these experiments. And then you could learn the lessons as if you would have put in money. And that was kind of my concept. I think I drastically underestimated how much people would just completely disregard me saying, don't copy me.
That's yeah, again, you put so much effort into making a fundamental video to actually underlyingly try to help people do better, lose less, and it'll get a couple thousand views, and then you say this shit coin's going to the moon, and it'll get 100,000 views, right? People do want it to be just basically placed in their lap, but ultimately there are people out there searching to better themselves as well, and that's the content you'll resonate and get subscribers from.
Yes. And anyway, so I went through a long string of like different methods of like, how can I convince people that it's really in their best interest to not copy me? Mm-hmm. And even still, I'm trying to figure that out because it is such a just poor strategy, right? But anyway, so regardless on that, I'm using that video as an example though. So say they disregard it, they decide to copy it from 1 cent. It's rebasing over all those months and it goes to 20 cents, right? Yeah. I don't even know what it is. It's like 50x, 80x, 100x. Like anyone that should have put money in there should have made a fortune, but most people didn't. It's like you almost had to like do everything wrong to not make money in that situation. But that is what people naturally did. They would they sold way too early, or they like along the way they put it in when it went to 3 cents and then it dropped down to 2 cents and they sold it, or they held it the whole time until it crashed back down and they lost a bunch of money. So I was going to say, I just came to the conclusion that it wouldn't matter if it was the greatest opportunity on the planet. They wouldn't be able to capitalize on it if they didn't have the fundamentals. And even if they did capitalize on it and made a fortune, they'll probably take that fortune, go invest into another project and lose that because they don't have the fundamentals. Right. And so with my goal being to help people, I've really focused in on, or in some ways transitioned to like more fundamental content, because I feel like that's where people are lacking more than anywhere else is in the fundamentals. And, I'll still do experiments from here, here and there. I just have to be really like, I don't know. I still don't know what to do to get people to not copy me. I feel like in Crypto Winter, it's a little bit easier. People aren't quite as like over the top. But yeah, so I'm still doing some experiments here and there, but a lot of it's focusing on the fundamentals, because I believe with the fundamentals, if it's not crypto, if it's not, whatever next thing comes along, they're going to at least understand what to do to build their own wealth.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that content is evergreen for sure. Right. So regardless of what season it is. So I do like that plan. So then you briefly mentioned it early. Now where you're at today, what do you do to promote good mental health for yourself? I know you talked about being with your family, but how do you balance being so busy with all the success and spending time with your family?
I'm hardcore into like time management and all that. So like Atomic Habits, Compounding Effect. Like I read a ton of books on those subjects, but I also apply those pretty heavily to what I'm doing.
Very cool.
So I have like, you can't really see it, but I have this whiteboard over here that it has my whole weekly schedule of what I should be doing each day. And I have it pretty dialed in. And then I try to trim that, so I can have excess time. So I'm not super stressed and like, pinned for time. For example, Fridays is kind of like my think through things day. So on Friday's my like most relaxed day, because I sit down for an hour and actually think through like, let's think about YouTube. Let's think about an hour. Let's think about Obsidian for an hour. Let's think about the overall thing for an hour. And so it's my time to kind of plan and build and strategize, which is nice.
Could you touch on Obsidian? Because that was another one of my questions, is what businesses are you working on towards the future as well?
Yeah. So Obsidian kind of came about by accident. I had this idea essentially to create a community. So I'm sure you've read a lot of books where it's like you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Exactly.
So I wanted to get like some pretty epic people all into a Discord and we could all just talk about building stuff. Right. And so I put out a forum on my channel. I limited it to like 100 people, bunch of people like applied in, and then we built this little Discord group. And then kind of in there, we're like, we don't even know what this is for. Let's just build something cool. And so out of that, our first idea was like, hey, we're all hyper busy individuals. What if we created this thing called the whitelisting guild, where we basically band together, approach projects and see if they'll give us whitelist slots. And so that's the first thing we did. And to do that, we like created a sort of a membership fee. So everyone paid a fee and part of that too is as a filter, right?
Yeah.
People don't value what they don't pay for in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever read like anything from Russell Brunson, he talks about how he did this conference. And it's like $25,000 a ticket. Every year he would invite friends and family. Out of like the 10 years he did it, not one of those friends and family went to do a successful business, but tons of the people that paid did.
Right.
And so that was kind of the concept. So we charged for it, but the money didn't go to me. The money actually just went into a fund to then pay for the person who kind of like managed all the whitelisting stuff. So they're the ones that actually are approaching the projects.
Right.
And then it paid for a person to kind of manage the community. So they're the one, because I don't have the time to do either of those things.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so that was kind of the first idea. And then we wanted to build other resources of like, what else can we build that would be beneficial, useful for what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We're all investing in crypto. What else could we build? And then we ended up getting rugged on a project. There was a big bummer. And it ended up that project had been KYC'd. And we're like, why didn't that work? As we could probably do this better. So, and we had a project basically tell us like, yeah, if you did that, we would do it. And so we started a KYC program called Obsidian KYC. And
cool.
we tried to improve it by like, we had our ideas about how we would improve it with like a more strenuous process and, all of that. But a lot of learning happened in those early days where essentially like our original vision was, it's not our goal to filter projects based on if they're a good project or a bad project. It's our goal to just simply KYC projects. But what we learned really fast was like bad projects are like way harder to deal with. They're really messy. They are often make really dumb decisions. And they were taking up a ton of our time because they'd be like, we're going to do this. And we're like, that's rugging. And they're like, no, it isn't. And we're like, yes, that is. And so they ended up being a lot of drama, really a lot of confusion. So when we upped our filter to where we only took about 10% of the projects that came through. But then even with that, we ended up having a project that rugged. And it was a big deal. Yeah. Because it's like, well, now great. Like we're the KYC where we have a project that got rugged. And what we ended up learning was like the industry standard is that if you have like every other KYC firm, essentially they'll KYC, one member of the team. Yeah. And we're like, well, everyone does that. So that must make sense. Right. And in our thought was like, essentially, if, somebody rugs from their team, we'll just ask that person who they are. Right.
Maybe they don't know each other or something. Yeah.
Yes. Some of these teams were working together for over a year and would not know each other's real identities. Sheesh. And so we didn't even know that it's just one of those things like, you don't know what you don't know. And so we ended up having these people in our community that were really good at like investigating the blockchain. They ended up tracking down the identities of the people that rugged. Wow. We got in touch with them. We recovered all the funds.
Incredible.
Yeah. And we were able to get those back to the project members who were like the good project members. And then they, gave refunds. People wanted refunds.
Oh, awesome. Good for you guys. Because it's almost inevitable not to run into a rug pull here or there with like basically any computer programming person can create a contract and a coin, right? So it's been going absolutely nuts over the last year.
What we learned from that was we actually upped our standards. So like now basically it was a big hit to income, but we think it was kind of necessary to actually be an efficient or like a useful KYC. So what we did is we made it so that instead of KYCing just one member, we now require anyone that touches the contract or anyone that touches the multi-sig has to KYC with us. Yeah, that's a good idea. We even made all our old projects update and a lot of them just refused and we just gave them refunds and said, parted ways. But there's just a lot of people in crypto that they're just really, they feel unsafe having their identity anywhere. And so, but it's like essentially the only way you could do a good KYC is you have to do that. Otherwise there's always one member that could take the money and you don't know who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did that. And then we also increased our filter. So now it's about 1% of the projects that apply get accepted. and we require full team KYC. So everyone that's a member has to be KYC'd. And we hired a guy that essentially when they KYC, they have to like do this video interview where they have to show that they actually have access to the contract, show that they are the person that controls their actual address, show that they are the address that's on the multi-sig. Because another thing we found out, and this is insane, like essentially these teams, this is how they will hire someone on Fiverr or like just somebody from their community to be a part of their team. They get an allocation of coins. And then that person's job is to go get KYC. They're not really a team member. They
What's
don't
that
know
called? It's like a mole or,
yes.
yeah. Well, what's that? Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. You just pay someone to go be your mule or whatever. Right. But yeah.
Yep. They did that. And
That's
you
wild.
would think that that's like a
wild.
far-fetched idea. Like if somebody told me that ahead of time, I'd be like, no, nobody's going to do that, but they do.
Yeah.
So we now check all the identities and make sure everyone is who they say they are and all of that. Plus we're KYCing everyone, plus anyone that gets added to the team to touch the contract, hired to touch the contract or the multi-sig, they have to get KYC too.
Yeah.
And so that's how we're moving forward, just so it's an actual useful resource for our community.
Very cool.
That was the whole point. And yeah, that's how that came to be. So
that's really well for this, doing really well for the space. That's awesome to hear. Cause there's like, I see some projects where they will take a Certic audit and then like Photoshop it with their logo on it. And then all their information Photoshopped. And then you go to their team page and it's like these LinkedIn profiles that look way too like suspicious, where it's like they're based all around the world, but they all went to the same university. And I can't even imagine being KYC right now, how like scammy it could be. So
there's a lot that has to happen in the space to improve that. I actually like, our hope is that somebody will figure out a way to kind of automate these things on the blockchain so that they don't even need to exist, right? Like ideally, like fraud would be prevented on like a blockchain level. I just don't know how people would do that. But like, I think ideally the industry has to have something of that sort or some sort of standards in place, because the amount of fraud and scams in crypto is like pretty crazy. It's like over $1 billion was lost last year in crypto scams. And so something needs to be done. And it'd be better if the crypto industry itself did it rather than like government regulation. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, we'll see with time. So, one of our goals is to just keep evolving that process so it gets better and better. It's not really as much about like how much money can we make as much about how good of a KYC program can we make in the space. And ideally, like our hope is that kind of every KYC program or whatever company adopts the same standards of like, they will not KYC you unless the whole team does it. Yeah. And right now they don't do it because they would lose out on too much money because, but
they're a business as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Makes
hopefully
sense.
one day they will, because yeah.
Exactly. One of my last questions I have for you is that with everything you've been through, seen, do you see opportunity for others in the space with either what you're doing in crypto, YouTube, side hustle?
For other people, I would say there's a lot of opportunity in crypto coming up. People make the mistake of when crypto's super hyped up, that's when they want to get in, but most of the money's been made at that point. And when it's like super dead, they like don't even pay attention to it, but that's when you can make the real money. And so I wouldn't like, advocate for anyone to go throw their life fortune into crypto at the moment. I would say it could still go way lower. That's always a possibility. But I would say definitely don't stop paying attention. Like keep learning about the space. Like you want to know, like DeFi came out of last crypto winter that did not exist before then. So is there going to be a DeFi level innovation in the space this winter? Like, I don't know, but cool. I would definitely, lean into the educational aspect of crypto right now. Pay attention to the industry and pay attention to like when you really feel like that bottom's in, maybe that's a good time to start buying up good projects with good fundamentals, not degen projects. Like that's a season that you can play if you're experienced and you know what you're doing, but that's not what's going to take off from winter. Those are going to be good projects.
Now, is there a sector? Is there a sector in crypto that you're focusing in on, whether it be DeFi, nodes, whatever?
So right now, it's more about capital preservation for me. So I want to have the capital to invest when the opportunities come. It really just feels like the season, like not much innovations happened since summer to winter, right? Because winter is just brand new. So I have, I'm putting money in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I am really bullish on Ethereum right now because of the merge upgrade. I think a lot of people don't fully understand what that is and what it entails. I think a lot of people don't understand Ethereum in general. They just think, oh, it's too expensive. The gas fees are too high. And because of that, they don't really look at it. But they're looking at like maybe the most important element of a blockchain is fast transactions and gas fee. But that's just not true. Like if you think about it, like if you just centralize everything, you could have no gas fees and super fast transactions. The most important is like decentralization, security, immutability, trustlessness. And those are the areas that Ethereum just like dominates, especially security. And so that's one thing. But the second thing is like their scaling solutions and what they're doing with that. Like most people think it's like the sharding, right? They're all like, oh, the sharding is going to be revolutionary, but really their scaling solutions isn't the sharding. Their scaling solutions are layer 2s like Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon. Right. And so they have super cheap fees. They're built on top of Ethereum. They have the same security of Ethereum because they're built on top of it. And Ethereum envisions like maybe hundreds or thousands of layer 2s built on top of Ethereum, which is like, I mean, I could go way down the rabbit hole, but basically imagine Avalanche launching a blockchain. They have to pay for their own security, their own validators, all this stuff. It's really expensive. And that's why Avalanche isn't profitable. Like they lose money. They're bleeding money. Same thing with Solana. But layer 2s, their security is free. They get paid for by Ethereum. So if you're starting a blockchain, it makes way more sense to start a layer 2 than a layer 1. It's way cheaper. You can then use your token for like other stuff besides security. And you get super cheap fees because they're basically taking all the fees that one person would pay on Ethereum, and instead like 100 people pay that one fee. And then even on top of that, that's what the like sharding and stuff is, just to reduce even that fee will get lower and lower over time. So there's like a million different things that go into about the merge. That's not even why it's bullish. It has to do with the way it's going to change the way Ethereum works, where right now you need new buyers in Ethereum. You need about like $19 million of Ethereum has to get bought every day because they're paying miners, right? They have to pay miners a lot of Ethereum. That's they're printing Ethereum to pay miners. Those miners sell a good portion of that Ethereum back onto the market. So it's about $19 million. So every day there's $19 million of sales consistently day after day. And if that doesn't get bought, then Ethereum falls in price. But and imagine if the price of Ethereum doubles, now that 19 millions, that's almost $40 million. Then it doubles again, 80 million, which is why, Bitcoin's the same way. That's why they can only go so high before they crash, because like it becomes unsustainable, right? You're talking multiple billions a month that has to get bought from new buyers, but it'll flip
that shift.
Yep. The shift basically means that they're not paying miners anymore. They're paying validators, and it's like a 93% reduction in expenses because validators are way cheaper. Yes. And so now they're paying validators way less, and they actually burn a ton of tokens from their gas fees. So they're actually deflationary at that point. So they're burning more tokens than they're expending. And so it becomes essentially, instead of having to have $19 million worth of buyers buying Ethereum each day, now once the post merge, you have to have 19 million people selling each day, or else the price goes up. It's going to be super bullish, I think. And I think honestly, it's going to change all of crypto, because right now crypto's locked into these winters, right? If you look at like the stock market and stuff like that, it doesn't work the same way. You have way more bullish seasons than you do winters, but crypto's the exact inverse. And I think it has to do with a lot of this dynamic of like, essentially every 4 years, you have to have this halving event so the price can go higher. And it's locked into these cycles. Well, Ethereum's about to break free from that model and that cycle. And I'm hoping that means that the crypto market will be able to break free from that model and cycle, and we'll be able to switch to something more like stocks, where we can have way more bullish seasons than we do winters. Winters will be, instead of 4 years, 4 months. And 4 years. That's the hope. So we'll see what happens.
No, that's fair enough. That's awesome. That was the perfect answer. I love it. Other than that, I'm going to send everyone to go and obviously check out your YouTube channel. But was there any other socials you wanted to maybe promote before we wrap this up?
No, just my YouTube channel. Just that's my main place. So
Yeah, very cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. We went over a bunch of stuff, learned about your really cool history and all the story and where you got to where you are now. So appreciate the time today. Okay,
sounds
man.
good, man. Catch you
Take
later.
care. Have a good Friday.
Bye. You too.